Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fighter Heart podcast. Today, I'm sitting here with Emma Meyers. Thanks, Emma, for taking the time.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So, like you saw, we like to get into it pretty quickly around here. So, if you could just give us a little brief rundown about who you are, where you're from, and then get into your Fighter Heart story. We'll take it from there.
All right, my name is Emma, and I was born in China with a condition called fibular hemimelia. It's a rare condition where you um, either the bone is missing or short. And for me, I didn't grow my fibula at all. So at the age of 2.5, I was adopted, and shortly after I was adopted, I was amputated, and I was amputated so I could be fitted for prosthetics. And then shortly after I was amputated, I was put into sports. And this was to supplement physical therapy because, no kid likes doing physical therapy. It was an easy way for me to let my energy out and just be active.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and from there, I did competitive swimming for quite a few years. My goal was actually to go to the Paralympics for swimming. And then it switched over to triathlon after I found my passion. And my father was in the military. So growing up, I constantly moved a lot. And although moving wasn't ideal, I gained a ton of life experience and got to meet so many different people and learn different um, cultures and backgrounds. And honestly, it helped me. I have a different perspective and a better understanding of the world, and I'm more adaptable. Right now, I am at Colorado Mesa University, and I compete on the women's sorry, and I compete on the women's triathlon team.
Mm-hmm. When did you come? Let's get on like a little bit of a timeline. When did you come to America?
2.5.
Oh,
I
two and
was
a half.
adopted. Yes.
Okay. And then when did they work on your leg? Like when did they
I
have to
was
amputate?
so after I was adopted, I was amputated. And so my parents knew when adopting me that an amputation was needed and necessary.
I gotcha. And when did like sports start? Was that like 4 years old? Was it like your whole life?
Sports has been a part of my journey my whole life. I absolutely love being active and I love competing and I love the community of sports. And so when I was younger, I started swimming. I actually did gymnastics before swimming, which is kind of crazy because a lot of people don't think
Yeah.
that, I've done it, but I did. And then I switched to swimming. And once when I got into swimming, I became more and more competitive. Like I went to the national championships and, all these races. And my goal was to to compete in the Paralympics for swimming. And then after I moved to Pensacola, Florida, it's where I met a a good group of triathletes. And here in Pensacola, they have a lot of groups and clubs for one to join. And so I got involved with that. From there, I started doing like kids triathlons. Once when I was old enough, I started doing more and more triathlons. I moved back up to Washington State, met a guy named Aaron Scheides, and he competed in the Paralympics a couple times in cycling and in triathlon. And so that's where like my journey started really is I was meeting more people with disabilities and more para triathletes. And then I got into the community, started doing camps and clinics. And from there, I started racing in World Triathlon, built up my ranking. And my goal was to compete in the 2024 Paralympics in the sport of triathlon, which I did. And so now my goal is just to improve myself as an athlete and as a person.
I get ready for 2028, I guess, right?
2028, I have big goals. I think my goal is to podium in 2028. So,
All right. So for the people who don't know, a triathlon is biking, swimming, and running, right?
yeah, so triathlon is a swim, bike, run. So for para, we do a sprint distance triathlon. And so that's a 750-meter swim, a 20K bike, and a 5K run.
Gotcha. And I guess swimming's your favorite of those three?
Swimming is my strongest. I have a background in swimming, um, and growing up in all different, moving around all the time, and growing up in so many different places, I know how to swim in many different types of bodies of water. So I have that advantage of being adaptable and able to swim in any current. pretty much, and any weather.
I assume it's a different prosthetic for swimming and running, right? Like it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a different prosthetic for all the sports.
Okay.
So in swimming, you don't actually have a prosthetic at all. You're on your own completely. So
Oh,
whatever, um, however you are, that's how you swim, pretty much. And it's
wow.
just to ensure that, everybody is, I don't know, I think it's, I do a bit of, it's pretty much to make sure that everyone is equal.
Hmm.
And so, because theoretically, prosthetics could be anything. And
Yeah,
so
like you
with
could have
that,
like a flipper or something.
yeah, and you could call that a prosthetic. So for
Yeah.
the swimming, you're on your own. You're not using any devices, any prosthetics really. Um, for biking, I have a biking leg specifically made to bike. The purpose is completely biking, and what it is within a prosthetic, you have a socket, and the socket is where your leg goes in.
Hmm.
And then below the socket, what's attached is the leg, the blade, or the leg itself. And so that's what you walk on. It's usually like the metal part or the carbon fiber part of the blade, the foot and all. And
Yeah.
so I have a socket, and then I have a metal rod essentially. And then at the bottom, I have somewhat of like a foot, and under at the bottom of the foot is the bike cleat. And the reason why I have a specific bike leg, not just, um, my walking or slash everyday leg with the bike shoe, is because you lose power as as you do a pedal stroke, and so prosthetics are made to compress and then to spring you forward or like use your momentum as it compresses. You know,
Yeah.
and you don't want that in when you're biking, as you lose power and watts. And so
Yeah.
if that makes sense to you,
It does. It does.
it's kind of hard to explain, but I
I
have
mean,
just a metal rod.
I've talked to a lot of people, so I could kind of picture.
Okay.
I never asked them about the prosthetic that they use for biking, though. I can't
Yeah,
picture what that one looks like.
I would show you, but I have to go run upstairs.
No, that's fine. That's
So,
fine.
um,
We could pop one on the screen.
all right, I can just send you a picture then.
Yeah, that works.
Um, and then I have a running leg. So I'm have two prosthetics that I use during a triathlon, which I switch from. Um, and the one thing that's different, so I do collegiate triathlon, and so I'm the first para triathlete in NCAA to do triathlon. And so this last season was a lot about figuring out what works best and how pretty much figure out what works best and how I can race. And so
What's your like earliest memory of using the prosthetic? Like how old were you?
I actually don't really have the earliest memory of using a prosthetic. Um,
It's
I
just like
never
you've
really,
always had it,
yeah, I've always
basically.
had it. So it's not
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's nothing new to me. It's part of me actually.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so the one thing that's different between able body and para triathlon is that we have pre-transition. I don't know if you know that, but pre-transition is where we go from the water to pre-transition to then the bike. And so within pre-transition, we get all of our equipment so we can run to the transition area.
Got you. Yeah, so that you have it like waiting for you after you're done swimming.
Yes. So
Got you.
although it takes some time, it allows us to get from one place to another.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So what drew you to triathlon over just swimming?
I would say the community,
Yeah.
100%. The people that I've met and the relationships that I have created, some of these people are my closest friends. The environment, the community, all of it, just the whole aspect.
Nice. And have you had, I guess, a lot of support from friends and family like to go into it?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. I've been very fortunate to have strong and supportive people.
oh, that's great. So let explain a little bit like how your career was, like in high school, I guess. Did you start in high school?
Um, it's kind of weird actually. So when I was in high school, I lived in Florida, and Florida has rules where you can't um, compete professionally, like receive prize money, and um, do high school sports. And so when I first moved to Florida, Pensacola, I moved during sophomore year of high school. And at that time, I was also transitioning from like junior, like from kid triathlons to world triathlons. And so I chose to do, so oh, my bad. I'm trying to backtrack. And
No
so,
sweat. No sweat.
no, you're good. I'm trying to think how to make it more in like chronological order.
Hmm.
So I moved to Pensacola sophomore year of high school. And because of Florida State rules, I chose to continue my world triathlon career rather than my high school sports. So I did high school sports sophomore year. Um, and then junior year, I just dropped everything. And the reason why is you can't receive prize money because you're a professional essentially and do high school sports.
Yeah.
And so junior year, I was competing and doing international races, building up my ranking, getting ready for the getting ready for 2024 because with all the points and the mathematicals, that's
So in college, are you allowed to get money, or is that still not allowed?
um, there's definitely rules. Um, but yes, I am
Okay.
allowed to receive money. It has to be in a specific way, making sure that I'm not breaking any rules. But I'm definitely talking to the clients and everybody with on the board.
So I assume for 2024 you had to like qualify, right? Like there were
Yes.
qualifiers.
So 2024, you have the qualification period, which is a year long. So it was from July 1st of 2023 to July 1st, 2024. And so within this period, you're trying to get as many points as you can. And in order to get points, you have to do races. So the bigger the races and the better you do, the more points you get. They take your top three races. And so within this year, you do three races, try to get as many points as you can by doing as many races you or races that you think you can do well in.
Gotcha.
And so you definitely have to be strategic because, like, say if everybody's doing this race, you have to see where you stand within your competition and like if it's worth you traveling and worth you competing versus if you do a different race, for example. So within this year long, I was doing a couple races. I have had a lot of people helping me and supporting me. So 2024 wasn't that as stressful as a year as 2023. So I was able to just do the races I needed to do and be pretty confident that I was going to make it. But at the same time, 2024 was also a stressful year for me because that's when I graduated high school. And then before the games, we had USA Triathlon had a clinic, or had a camp in Vichy. But before Vichy, I moved from Florida to Colorado for college. So I was getting settled in to college.
It's a
I
lot.
went to Vichy to do a training camp, and then I went to Paris for the games.
Yeah. It's a,
So
all in 1 year is crazy.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was busy, but it was definitely a good year.
Is there like a certain amount of points you need to qualify? Like they tell you like you need to get 100 points or something, or
So the way they do is rankings. So I'm a PTS4. That's my category. So I race against people that usually are missing their below the knee leg, missing their leg below the knee, or um, yeah, that's usually how I race against. I'm just gonna leave it there.
I got you.
So I don't know really how to explain, but yeah, I race against people who have similar disabilities to me. So most often, racing against people that are below the knee amputees. And so within my ranking, I had to be in the top nine. And then I also, on top of that, I had to be the top two. So they take the top two from every country within the top nine.
Got you.
So theoretically, like, say if I was third, I was the third US, but in the top nine, I wouldn't get an automatic spot, which there's a whole nother process.
How what rank did you get? You were obviously top nine, so
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I was in a, I was definitely not in the top five, but I was in a comfortable spot.
it wasn't like you were 10th and like your last race you made it ninth, right? Like that'd be
No,
crazy.
no.
All right, yeah, that's nuts. Uh, so what was it like going to Paris? Have you ever been there before?
I've been to Paris a couple of times. So one of the races I've done 2 years ago, almost three actually, because it's 2025, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But earlier on in my season, early on in my career, actually, I had a race in Besançon, France. And so after the race, my family and I went to Paris, just had like a little vacation.
Mm.
Um, and Paris is like, it's definitely a, where did I go actually? Trying to think. But yeah, I've been to Paris quite a few times actually. But being in Paris and being at the games was like a whole completely different experience.
Of
Like,
course.
you watch and you see like reels of the Olympics beforehand and like you have a general idea, but experiencing it again, like is a whole different level.
Yeah, new world, right?
Oh yeah.
So was there any special prep like leading up to it? Like, did your training change or was it pretty much the same routine?
So my coach and I definitely upped my training and we worked on specific things. Um, and then for prepping, there was definitely a lot of mental preparation. Um, because I mean, the games is one, if not the biggest race of your life. And at the same time, I had so many other things going on. And so I definitely did a lot of self-reflecting, talked about my emotions, shared it with other people, just be
Hmm.
open.
Yeah, and that helped a lot,
Yes.
I assume. Yeah, good. So how did you do in Paris?
So I got top nine. I mean, yeah, actually, let me rephrase that. That's kind of weird, actually. I got ninth.
Okay, you got you.
I got ninth. So I'm
Okay.
happy with my performance. My goal
Yeah.
was to make it to the games and to get as much experience as I can. So when 2028 comes, I can be as prepared.
And for someone like I know like basketball, like people hit their prime when they're like 29, 30. Is that the same for triathletes?
Yeah, pretty much, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm actually one of the youngest um, athletes in World Triathlon, but also just in USA Triathlon for para, at least. And everybody is saying that I'm just gonna peak when I'm like in my mid 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's amazing. But again, I'm like 10 years away from that.
That's amazing though. So like I mean, you could only expect it to get exponential from here, right? Like you're so young. So
Yep.
that's exciting. So can you give us like a day in the life? Like how does your day go usually? Like you wake up, you go to school, or you wake up and train, then go to school? Like how does it work?
So I'm on the women's triathlon team, and so we have a couple practices a day. So we usually start our day at like 5:45 in the morning. So I get up at like 5:15, 5:30, depending on the day and depending how I'm feeling, really.
Yeah.
Um, and so from there we do a practice. Usually it's swimming, and then we'll do like an easy run or bike. Then I have school, and then we usually do a second practice in the evening.
Wow.
Slash mid afternoon. Yeah. But it's kind of weird because I did online for my first semester of college. Just because I got back from the games quite into the school year, I just stayed online. And so I was training with my teammates and I was living on campus just as everything else. But instead of going to class in person, I just did online. And so
Hmm.
it's kind of weird that my my first semester of college isn't your standard year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You were online. It was like
I was online. I actually I love traveling and I love exploring. And so after our trainings, I would pretty much just go wherever the heck I wanted and go to trips. Where Colorado Mesa um, is in Grand Junction, and Grand Junction's about like 2 hours away from Moab. So going to Moab, Utah was, super easy and accessible. And I don't know if you know, but Utah is like one of the best states for national parks. So I
Oh
would just,
yeah. Or
yeah,
like
so I would just go over, get all my work done, obviously. But yeah,
and then like go on hikes or something
go
like
on
that.
hikes.
Yeah.
Um, and even in the area that I live in, there's so many outdoor activities to do.
Yeah. And you love that because you're an athlete.
I love it. It makes you feel alive. You know, everybody's got to explore, and you can't just do schoolwork and you can't just train. You got to have balance. And so, being able to have balance between schoolwork, training, and my personal life, you know, makes things a lot easier and just in better, smoother, and just in general, smoother.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So your day pretty much goes from 5 in the morning to what, like 7 at night, 8 at night?
Um,
Is it that
At the
much?
beginning of the school year, yes, I was going to bed. Actually, I was probably asleep by 8. It was just that much, and it was exhausting. And you know, it was a completely different type of training plan. Now I say I usually go to bed at like 9, 10ish, depending on schoolwork.
Mhm.
For this semester, I will be in person. So I'm doing half online, half in person, just to make, I like having the flexibility and freedom of classes, which is why I like doing online, but I also like the social aspect.
Yeah, of course. And you made a bunch of friends, I assume, over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the goal is to podium in 2028. Do you have like, is there like every 2 years you have some other kind of like big one also, or no, it's just every 4 years?
Every 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's no other like huge ones. When's your next race?
So my next race will be in March, and that's a collegiate race. And then after the school year ends, that's when I start doing a lot of world racing. Um, so I'm planning on doing a race in Colombia, and then I'm planning on doing um, some races in July.
How do you decide which ones to take? Do you like do it all in the beginning of the year, or is it like as you go? It's like, oh, we're gonna do this one.
It's a bit of both. You definitely have to be strategic, so you
Yeah,
have to come up with a plan. And so I have I have a plan in mind, and as long as things go well, I plan on sticking to this plan. If not, no worries. I'll do a race. I'll make adjustments if I need to.
gotcha. All right, that's awesome. So you got one in March, and you're getting ready for that.
Hmm.
What are you said your plans to podium in 2028?
Yes.
Where's that one?
LA, but honestly, I don't know anything more about it, especially what's happening in California right now.
Yeah, that's true. Who knows how it's going to be going over there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that's cool though. That's in America though. It's been a while, I think.
it has quite a couple decades.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully it works out. So future plans, I guess, just keep getting better. We usually go over like what your future plan is, but it's like just keep getting better, keep doing what you're doing, stay on track, and win some races.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm studying social work at my school.
Okay,
And so with that, I want to work with nonprofit organizations on promoting active lifestyle and mental health, specifically those with disabilities.
gotcha. And that's where you're gonna hopefully have a job after you get out of there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we're coming down to the end here. Like we like to ask at the end,
Hmm.
what is some advice you'd give to someone, who is in a similar situation as you? I know you only knew this life, like you were 2.5, so you don't really remember not having a leg. But what's some advice you'd give to maybe your younger self, something you've learned over the years that you wish you knew back then?
Um, I have two different things. So, advice that I would give to buying yourself is trust yourself and trust the process.
Yeah.
And then for advice that are people like in similar situations is everyone is struggling. Wait, no, let me rephrase that. That's really, let me rephrase. Advice, you are not the only one struggling. Everyone is struggling and has their own problems. Don't feel like you're the only one who is struggling. Talk about your feelings, share them, and sharing your feelings not only makes you feel less alone, but also helps others.
Awesome, Emma. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Do you have any like social media or websites you can share? We'll put them in the
Um,
description.
yeah, I have my Instagram. That's usually my main one. So,
Okay, cool. And you'll send that to us. We'll put it in the description.
yes. Would you do you need me to send anything?
Yeah, we'll talk about it after. I'm gonna end this right now, and then
Okay,
we'll
cool.
talk for a
Yeah, just
second.
message me. All right,
You
thank
got
you.
it. Everyone, thanks again for taking the time to listen to another Fighter Heart podcast. We will see you again next week.